Rolling on here on a beautiful Sunday morning, the 26th of January, 2025. If you were to be in Connecticut or New York at the moment, the weather would stink. The weather would be terrible. It would be a grim 20 degrees, no golf, no tennis, no running. You can't do anything. So, when you have a son who has a job in West Palm Beach, Florida, and you can go out whenever you want and go stay at the fancy hotels, and you could go play some golf, and you could do whatever you got to do whenever you please. That is what my parents did the last couple days. Joining me now is my father, Christopher Russo, on Sunday Huddle on ESPN 106.3. Your takeaway, what do you got?
The first thing is you're in a great spot because I know there's a sign outside that says don't feed the animals, but people can never resist that. So I'm sure you get peanuts and grapes and leaves off trees.
It's like when there's a chimpanzee at the zoo and they start showing stuff in the bag and see if the chimpanzee gets all interesting.
Do they throw you a banana every now and then?
Yeah, they throw you a banana.
So you can eat plenty of food.
Yes, you can.
Furthermore, you never, ever get a chance to sit in the power chair.
No.
The power chair is for Mike Rizzo.
Yes.
So why in the world am I in the the sidekick, the Wayne Rogers, the Robin to Batman chair today, and not sitting in the power chair?
Hold on, you should be comfortable in that chair. Let's make it something clear.
I wasn't there a long time with the big guy.
Made a career in that chair, huh?
19 years. Yes. How are you, Colin Russo?
I'm good. First of all,
and your partner over there, my buddy,
Cade's with us.
Cade, indeed. I saw him yesterday.
So you had a couple days. You've had about 24 hours here. You haven't seen me since we moved in. What was that? Late July, early
July
August.
31st, that dump of yours at that apartment.
Right.
That you have not. We can't even watch the football there because what you have for seating arrangements is a lawn chair, which is hard to believe.
I have a lawn chair. I have a recliner chair, and I have a yoga mat. I could slay on the yoga mat.
You can't bring your mother and father sitting on a yoga mat for the championship games?
I will sit on the yoga mat. You could take the recliner chair. No, Mom will take the recliner chair. You take the lawn chair.
Colin, can I intervene here for a second?
Yes.
Mad Dog, we already know you don't watch games with other people.
Oh, I don't want to. That's a good point.
Colin, can I bring up what we've talked about week 1 of this show? Let's listen back to it.
Oh, wow. He's good with the audio.
Mrs. Russo got annoyed at Mr. Russo yesterday. I'm by myself all day. She's in one room. I'm in the other. I got nobody bothering me. The way I like it. The way Super Bowl should be watched. I don't even have any food next to me. No beer, nothing. I got my little socks on. I got my little Wisconsin sweatshirt on. I don't have to worry about Tim. I don't have to worry about Kira. I don't have to worry about Colin and Patrick. I'm not interested.
That was a few days after the Super Bowl.
He's good with the audio.
Oh, that's very good. Where'd you find that, Cade? That's a great
I don't even know. Cade's very good at this. He always has the audios prepared. But yeah, so I understand. But now you got to watch it with people.
I've
offered. I'm like, hey, we could go to a bar or something like that.
I'm not going to a
this
bar.
This guy thinks we're talking James Dean in the 60s. He thinks the paparazzi's going to be outside.
I don't think
people are going to be lining up.
I don't
want to
analyze the game with 50 strangers
to sign autographs. Nobody is going to be asking you for an autograph, my friend.
It's not so much that. I
asked you to come to the youth game yesterday, my youth basketball game, and you didn't want to be inundated with fans.
That was a little cocky. I have to agree. That was a little cocky.
At a youth basketball game in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, I don't think paparazzi's waiting outside.
And it wasn't Lakers Celtics 85. That I can promise you. It wasn't Larry Bird and Magic walking around
76-56 and 1,100 turnovers on either side.
Yeah, but anyway, I am looking forward to the football games today. We do have to find a secluded. Oh wait, yeah, I'll have a peanut. Yeah, just the fans go by. I will. I'm looking forward to. I can't wait to get to 3 o'clock. I made my little plays.
Yeah, so let's get into that. So you've been in the studio while we've been. And there's nobody in the studio today, so it's me and Cade doing the first half of the show, and you've joined us, but you've now sat in the back. You talked to your gambling partner, and now you've had a couple plays in. So why don't you walk us through that?
Not only that, Mike Francesa.
Oh, really?
My old partner.
What did Mike say?
Who's stewed because he had Kansas +2 yesterday against Houston.
One of the great, terrible losses I've ever seen.
I couldn't talk to him. He said, I tell you what he said. He said, Kansas was the worst collapse I've ever seen. If it was an NCAA game, it would be legendary. That's a good point. Anyway, here's what he liked today, and I'm going to take it with him, and he never got it right. He loves the props. He says the Bills are bad at covering backs out of the backfield. Now, I looked. There's not a lot of evidence with that. Henry did drop a wide-open pass last week. I like Perrine, the ex-Bengal, over 9.5 receiving yards. He'll get that on one play. Now, all right, so I played that.
Pirine hasn't registered a statistic other than one target this entire postseason. Did you look at this?
Yeah, I didn't, but I bet it.
All right, so Pirine's going to need to come out of nowhere. He's like the third running back in the depth chart.
I need one catch.
So you took that. You took that.
I
What
got
else
that
you
one.
take?
Now, Fat Rob, he's my cohort who you hear me talk about all the time. Rob, you know Rob well.
Hold on 1 second. I don't think the ESPN 106.3 audience cares.
Well,
about
they
what's
should
going
care. Don't they watch that? He's a major part. So we talked to him today, and we like De'Ami Brown for Washington over 3.5 receptions.
That I like.
He's been hot lately, so we took that one.
And I like that because McLaurin is going to be a big part of that defensive game plan, and there's your second option.
That's number 2.
That's why I think Ertz will have a big game too. Okay?
I thought of him. We took Jaden Daniels over 21.5 completions.
So for background, he had 22 last week in that win over
24
Detroit,
against Tampa.
and 24 against Tampa.
Now,
that one makes me a little nervous.
That's a bad vig on that, but we played it. Now, remember, we also did something weird. We did the under of Indiana, Maryland in college basketball. The game's at noon. I got to hang out with your mother in some capacity. Now I can at least look at the phone for the next 2 hours. So I have the under of Indiana, Maryland, and I took that with Washington +6.
So you parlayed the under of Indiana, Maryland,
With
Big
Washington-
Ten Sunday morning basketball.
With +6. Now, I also did a parlay earlier in the week, and the one I did was the over of High Point and South Carolina Upstate. It was 161.5. I know you can say crazy game. They needed 21 points in the last minute 7, and they scored 22. 89-76. Some crazy
Were you
score.
watching the game?
No, but I followed it. And I took that with the Washington money line today. You know what that pays? 7-1. So if I'm in a cranky mood at about 6:15 with all the fans driving me freaking crazy,
of course,
and it's 28-6 Philly, you're going to know the reason. I took that. I also took Buffalo on a money line too.
I like
110.
Buffalo too. Why do you think Buffalo will have a good game today?
Market correction. Sooner or later, Kansas City's got to lose one of these close games, don't they?
Yep, we've been saying that for the last 7 years.
We have.
Yeah.
Now, remember, they have lost 2 games at home. Cincy beat them, and Brady beat
And
them.
Brady, yes.
Both in overtime.
Yeah, but that's right. Both in OT.
Yes.
Cincinnati was in OT. Now, he played badly against Burrow, and he's the reason they lost. He played great against Tampa. Maybe it's Buffalo's time. That was a hunch. I hate the Chiefs.
It's a gut thing with Buffalo.
I mean, I said beforehand, this is a coin flip for me.
Oh, it's a coin flip. Give him the stat that you had. It's a great stat. I didn't know that.
So in the Chiefs are on an 8-game playoff winning streak. And in terms of penalties, in terms of roughing the passers, the Chiefs have had 0 roughing the passers, and their opponents have had 6. In terms of unnecessary roughnesses, the Chiefs have had 1, and their opponents have had 4.
So 10 of those penalties on the opponent and 1 to Kansas
And
City.
unnecessary roughness is likely going against Mahomes of all people. So that is 10 Mahomes penalties versus 1 the other way.
That's ridiculous.
Mad Dog, you don't know. I'm a Houston Texans fan.
Oh, you got killed last week.
I know that stat better than anyone here.
You got killed. Those 2 calls were terrible. Now, listen, that wasn't a Lombardi deal with some of his moves. 55-yard field goal, punt the ball. That was ridiculous.
You're preaching to the choir.
With a bad kicker, he hasn't played well.
I mean, it was windy. You can't do that. And plus, on 4th and 10, late in the game at 20-12, why are you going for it?
Yeah.
Or at least call the timeout to think about it.
Yeah, because they raced it. Remember, there was 10 seconds left, and they raced to the line.
Good job,
They raced
Kate.
to the line to get
He's
that
better
done.
than you. You get off. Let him sit in that chair.
Yeah, he's right. Kate's good with the number. He's good with the audio. Kate can get the audio.
I
can't do
consider
that.
myself the Paul Hembo of The Office.
That's Mike Greenberg. Good for you. Yes. I love this little spot you got here.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad.
It's a good location.
It's nice. So when we're doing the show 4 to 6, though, at this point of the year, it's dark by the time you're done. which is a little weird because it's 5:40 and it's pitch dark outside. But
Well, now you're
it's
heading
getting
into
better and it's better.
Well, now it's going to be great. February, April, you'll be fed great. February, March, and April and May, you're going to have a ton of people walking by here.
Right, and looking in,
Have
waving
no
through
idea
the
who you
glass.
are. No idea it's
who
a
we
radio
are.
station.
No
or you're
idea
talk
it's a radio
show,
station.
But at least they're going to see you.
I've been to games in the high school area where I'm at there with my ESPN West Palm
They have
polo,
no idea who you are.
and they're asking if I'm getting video for First Take. I am not getting video for First Take.
I don't. Do they really? That's
One kid asked me if we're filming for First Take. No, we're not filming for First Take.
Take it easy.
Sports Center Top 10. No, they don't get it
No.
via phone. They get it through all other avenues.
And he was on a basketball team in high school that was on a Sports Center one because we made a half-court shot to force an overtime in an unbelievable sequence, and it made Sports Center's top 10 shots of the week.
Right, yeah. So that's neither here nor there. Now, in the meantime, you've been here for 36 hours. How have I been as a host? I think I've done a pretty good job.
Not bad, I have to admit. You made us go to the basketball game.
It
I
made you.
I hadn't checked in
So
yet.
hold on. You landed. You checked. You couldn't check in. So for background, I coach a youth team with Mike Russo. We had a playoff game at 2 p.m. on a Saturday. You landed 12:15, 12:30.
About that, yes.
Trying to figure out a rental car. Fine. You can't check into the hotel at 1.
You know, it's not a Motel 6, Colin. There's things to do over there if I can't get into the room. So let's be fair. But I wanted to see you coach. That's what I was.
I
And
wanted
Rizzo.
you. Didn't
And
want
Mike.
to go.
And Mike.
We dragged you. We dragged you to this game. And it was our youth basketball game. We ended up losing by 20, but it was interesting for about the first half. Cade was there as well. We were there. It was interesting
did
for
a
the
good
first half.
job.
Well, so I was also there for context. I was at his very first game.
Night and day difference, by the way.
And I was at the last game. The very first game, the final score, I believe, was 45-12.
Yeah, ugly.
And the
He's
last
not John Wooden, but that's an improvement. No
Yes.
question about it.
So he
Against
made
the
it
same
through.
team, 45-12.
Different team.
No, but
and
he
we had
also had less players on his team.
The three best players on the court were not there that first game. Let's just put it that way.
And so they were there for this last
We
game.
picked up a couple guys.
Now, one guy's pretty good. The lefty, 50. What's his name?
Yeah, Matheson. He's a good
He's a
player.
pretty good player.
Yeah, he's a good player. He's a good athlete. He's a good athlete.
Look at me analyzing. So, who do we like in the games today and why?
I like so what you said, I like Buffalo, and I think Washington's going to be dangerous. I think they got to play the same type of game plan they did against Detroit. They have to get the game tense. They get the game tense, then Sirianni's going to try to do something cute.
And that crowd will get tight.
That crowd will get tight. All of a sudden, he goes for it on 4th and 4 at the opposing 40-yard line when he doesn't need to, and they don't get it. It leads to a touchdown. Then all of a sudden, they're going to be raining in boos. I think that is the type of environment, the type of situation that Washington should sort of force and let Sirianni make a mistake because I trust him to make a mistake more than Quinn does in a big game.
And plus, Hurts might be hurt with the brace on his knee, so that could be a...
Hurts also not that good. He's a good player. He's not great.
I had Mariucci on Friday at 5 o'clock. Steve Mariucci, he loved Washington. I was shocked. He said they got the best player on the field. He loved Daniels. Now, remember, rookie quarterbacks are 0-5 in championship games. Flacco lost. I'd have to go look.
Purdy lost. Or Purdy didn't play. He was hurt. He was a rookie.
Well,
when he was in that game.
that counts, though, because that's 2.
Roethlisberger, I believe, is 1
Yeah,
against the
Roethlisberger
Patriots.
lost to Brady.
To Brady, that's 3. Good job, but he is good, kid.
Yeah, he knows.
So as a result, 0-5 in this spot. So Daniels has to try to break that.
I think we're looking at the best rookie quarterback the NFL's ever seen. Well, let's think about it. Luck, Roethlisberger, RG3.
How about Sid Luckman?
What was
Sammy
it?
Ball.
What was it? What were we invading Normandy when Luckman was playing, huh?
Sammy Ball. I mean, Marino was good as rookie
Marino
year.
was good as rookie year. He
But
only
I-
started 9 games, but yes.
He started 9 games. Daniels is, and then his second year they got to the Super Bowl. Daniels is great.
He's great. He's unbelievable.
No turnovers. He's tremendous. 100%.
He's composed. He's composed, and I like that. Now, I agree. I think the idea with Buffalo is you're sort of just, we're done with Kansas City. I think if Buffalo loses this game and Kansas City does it again, it's just going to be a wait until Kansas City's done with what they do. Similarly to the Patriots, wait for that to blow up on its own, and then you can sort of take advantage.
Kansas City, Philly would be a tough game. They played 2 years ago.
Andy Reid, yes.
That game, we've seen that game. And remember one thing about this. Very rarely do you get teams playing so soon after a appearance. You had the Dallas Buffalo played. San Francisco Cincinnati was 8 years apart. Very rarely do you get this 2 teams 2 or 3 years after they just met in the Super Bowl. So hopefully,
Patriots, Giants, yeah.
well, that's true. You had the Patriots.
Well, we just had San Francisco KC, so it's not
that's right.
unheard of.
But maybe not. That's a stupid
Yeah,
statistic on my point.
yeah, you know.
I didn't think of it that carefully.
You're on vacation
You just came
mode.
up 4 or 5 of them for crying out loud.
yeah.
But normally you don't have it. So let's hope it's not Kansas State.
I agree with that. Can you see Andy Reid retiring if he gets 3 in a row?
I thought he might after last year. No way.
Not after 3 in a row. And on a high note, you got the
Nope.
three-peat. Nobody else has
You
done
know,
it.
the one thing about these coaches, they all learn from Holmgren. Holmgren left Green Bay after the Super Bowl with Denver to go to Seattle because they gave him control of the team. But he left Favre to go to Matt Hasselbeck. And he never got a chance to. He got to one of the Super Bowl, lost when they lost to Pittsburgh.
Right.
But he left Favre. Don't leave the great quarterback. Max out as much as you can. I think Reid would probably. I thought last year he could quit. I don't think that now. I think he's going to stay.
He's going to stay as long as Mahomes is kicking and
Why
in the
would
best
you leave
shape of
Mahomes?
his career, yeah.
And then if you leave Mahomes and the next guy went, did Phil Jackson ever leave Jordan and Pippen?
Right.
No, Jackson.
Spagnuolo steps in and they win another Super Bowl.
and takes something away from Reid.
That's a good point.
And Jackson, remember, the reason why Jackson said, I want the team broken up after they won the 6 because he wasn't going to coach. And if somebody else coaches Jordan and Pippen, and remember, they both played. If somebody else coaches Jordan and Pippen, all of a sudden Phil
Phil's
isn't the greatest.
less of a
There you go.
Well, now, do you think Andy Reid cares about legacy like that? To me, he seems more of like a humble gentleman who's not necessarily worried
maybe he's
about.
not wired
He's
that
got
way?
his 300 wins.
Maybe he's not wired that way.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I would see him like happy for the team.
I mean,
if
because
Spagnuolo went on to win a Super
coach
Bowl.
Mahomes until he's 40.
But the bottom line is, if he leaves and somebody comes in and wins 2 or 3 Super Bowls with Mahomes, that does take Reid. That takes his influence away.
100%. I just don't think Reid cares about
He
that.
may not. That's a good Kate.
Maybe.
Why doesn't he sit? Why don't you guys switch? You go in here and let Kate do this. He's better than you.
I know.
Well, listen, when the whole crew is on the remote and they forget their power cord, I do step in.
Oh, you do. You have forgotten your power cord on the road.
I didn't do that. It wasn't
Mike
my
did?
job.
All four of our hosts.
There's only 2 hosts. It got me.
Well, there's other producers. It might have been Theo. Might have been Christian, another one.
We got a call from Mike 10 minutes before Theo is supposed to go live. Hey, we forgot the power cord. I'm on my way back to the office right now. Our content director, Brian Rhodes, looks at me and goes, well, kid, let's do this thing. Brian jumped on the board. I sat in that chair right there. We ran the first 20 minutes of the show.
There you go. Very good. Well, that's how you get discovered.
That's
how you get discovered.
That's sometimes how it happens. So, all right. Other than that,
So you like Buffalo and who?
I like Washington.
You like
I don't know
both
about to
road
win
teams.
outright, but definitely to cover. That +6, I think, is Philadelphia is very good at closing out a line because if they're running the ball up 4 points in the game, that's where they blow it open. That's where they get that big run. They've done it 500
Well, how about
times this year.
last week with I don't know what the line ended up being with the Rams, 6.5. They got
It was 6.5. The Rams covered.
they covered.
Because
If you had the
Barkley
Eagles, you'd be
slid.
upset, and if you had Kansas City, you'd be annoyed because he took the safety, and it turned out to be I had it at 9. Houston, you got the push because it was 9 with the safety.
Chris Russo joining us now, my father, on Sunday Huddle presented by Hard Rock Bet. One last thing before we let you go here. I want to get your thoughts on something. We were talking about this earlier in the show about the coaching hires.
Right.
Number one, I think this is a problem. Maybe I'm looking too far into it on these coaches talking to teams while they're still in the postseason. It happened with Detroit. They took 3 interviews apiece, Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, when they're preparing for Washington.
And then they lost,
And
so
they,
then you're
and then
gonna
they
use
lose.
that.
Now Kellen Moore is the offensive coordinator for the Eagles.
He's
He
talking
wanted
to-
that Cowboy job. And all of a sudden, the Cowboys are like, we can't wait for a month for this guy to be done with this season, so we go to Schottenheimer because he can't open a staff in February. I think similarly to how free agency is done, where there's a set date where you can start hiring.
You can't ask a team, Kale, to sit there and wait a month and a half to hire a coach because that coach is in the postseason.
But how about, because then you're hurt. It's advantageous to the teams not in the postseason.
They get an advantage.
They get an
do.
advantage because they get developed. There's only so many great offensive line coaches.
No,
There's
the only
so-
problem is if they want a coach who is in the existing playoffs, they have to basically wait till
They
he
have to
gets
wait.
knocked out.
That to me is It's not advantageous to the teams in the postseason. You're almost punishing them.
So yeah, but it doesn't hurt the teams that's out of the postseason because those guys can't get jobs when they're still coaching. So
if
you'll
there-
get your crack to
if there's
talk
a
to them.
true, but
Aaron
if
Glenn.
there's a quiet period of 4 to 5 weeks just through the postseason, the NFL doesn't need the buzz. They don't need it. Not during the postseason time. You could create sort of an event.
So what are you supposed to tell the Jets who got to put together So when they can't talk to anybody until the Super Bowl is over.
Yes.
They fire. That's 5 weeks without a head coach.
Nobody's in the building anyway, other than the people interviewing for jobs.
That's a tricky spot. 5 weeks.
So
Do you want a dead period? You can't hire anybody until February 10th.
You think Detroit got hurt with the fact that these coaches were half in, half... Ben Johnson took the job 36 hours after they lost that game. You think they were hurt by those coaches having one foot out the door?
I'm sure a Lion fan would feel that way. That
to me is a problem.
That's a disadvantage for a team that's got good coordinators that's having a great year.
And now they lost their entire staff. And Aaron Glenn, who just picked up that Jet job, had a terrible game called, giving up 38 points other than the pick six in their building after a bye. I'm
trying to think if there's an example of coaches that left and did not have a bad game on the way out the door. Is Shane Steichen didn't he get to the Super Bowl with the Eagles?
True. Him and Gannon. And Gannon left too for Arizona.
All right, and they got all the way to the Super Bowl, and they played well against Kansas City.
On the flip side of that, Philly had to rephase both coordinators and had a rough year the next year because they had a shorter offseason and they had to replace
that's the
staff.
way it goes. Well, that's different. I mean, I can't do Philly, you know what? The guy got ahead. You lose him, you lose him. Your argument is it hurts the team because the coordinator is distracted. Well, Philly 2 years ago wasn't distracted. They got all the way to the Super Bowl, and then the two guys left, and they played well in the Super Bowl.
Just because it doesn't happen every time doesn't mean it's not a problem. I think I think the Detroit fans should be pissed.
But don't get lost in the moment, Colin, because these same arguments are saying that we should restructure the entire playoff system because a 14-win team was in the wild card.
Well,
that's the only time. But
that doesn't prove to be fat because those teams lost. All those teams got killed.
But to Mad Dog's point, how many times does it happen that it's a legitimate problem for coordinators to leave?
Detroit was ugly.
Every year, coordinators from playoff teams get stolen.
And every year, teams rebound and they restructure how their staff works.
And I'm not that worried about the team after the postseason. Colin's more concerned about the team being distracted, the coordinators, when they're being interviewed. That is a problem. That's your problem.
And I think it's advantageous to the teams that don't make the postseason and don't have a good regular season and want to blow everything up. And all of a sudden, it's not advantageous to the teams that are in the postseason that have to worry about this guy having a Zoom interview for 3 hours with ownership of a random team in the NFL comparatively to preparing for their game.
Remember Donald and the two Detroit, Aaron Donald and Johnson, they had a bye week. So they did a lot of the interviewing on the first week when they had their bye.
True, but they're still preparing, but I understand.
The second week, they probably, I don't know if they were allowed, there's rules of when you can do this. I don't know if you can talk to the coordinator after their bye week is up.
There is like a dead period. There is rules with it, but I think there should be more. I think it's a problem. I don't know. If I'm looking from a Detroit fan's perspective, after all that success, after that perfect season they had, to lay that
they lost 45-31.
And a lot of it is golf. A lot of it is golf. And that's fine. But I think there is a problem to be addressed in some sense with that. That is just my takeaway. And I don't think it's not a big deal to the NFL. All you got to do is make them wait. They wait. There's nobody in the building anyway.
It's a big deal to the team that wants to regroup quickly and get their free agency scenario straightened out.
Which starts in March. You get your
you're telling me you want Woody Johnson to sit tight for 6 weeks?
I do.
And you want the Bears to sit tight for 5 or 6 weeks?
I do. Okay. You don't miss the postseason. You want to blow up your coaching stuff? You wait.
Yeah, they're not going to change that, but I understand what I guess you could make that argument with the Lions this year. I don't know if it's an accurate one, but you probably could make the argument.
Yeah.
So you like the
Kellen Moore.
Who do you like today?
And on the other side of things, Kellen Moore gets screwed because Kellen Moore wanted that Cowboy job. Cowboys can't wait around all day for that job to open up, and whether they were going to hire him or not is another conversation.
They could have hired him because it's not like Brian Schottenheimer was going to be picked up by anybody else.
But then he's making a staff 4 weeks after the fact.
If Jerry Jones wanted Kellen Moore, he could have waited till this game is over to hire Kellen Moore. Yeah. I don't know if I agree with that one.
Bad hire on the Schottenheimer.
Oh, terrible. I can't stand it. What else? Cade, who do you like today, Cade?
So with regard to the Eagles Commanders, the number one thing I trust on the entire field is Jalen Carter with the Philadelphia Eagles defense. That's what I'm banking on today. I'll take the Eagles to both win and cover the 6 points, I believe it is on Hard Rock Bet right now.
You're worried about that's fair.
So, and then
finally somebody getting to the quarterback.
Exactly, right? Because it could go either way for that game. I'm not surprised whatsoever if the Commanders make that a ball game, make it close, if not win.
Well, remember, they almost beat him They beat him the second time, and they had 5 turnovers.
Yes.
I know he was hurts, but they did have 5 turnovers in the game.
And they spotted them 21 points in that game, too. They were up 21-0.
The Eagles were.
Yeah.
And the first game was relatively close until early in the fourth quarter.
Right.
So these teams know how to play each other. With regard to the Chiefs and Bills, Dan Orlovsky said something really good on NFL Live on Friday. He said, I'd rather be wrong with what my eyes say than what my heart says. And I like that idea. I'm going to go with Buffalo today because that's what my eye and what my intellectual self is telling me based on what I see in the regular season, based on what I saw last week against Baltimore. Kansas City has the aura of winning in the playoffs. That's why you go for Kansas City, and that's what my heart is saying is probably going to happen, but I'd rather be wrong with what my eyes and my mind is saying.
You got to figure that Kansas City, they're tough in these games, but one of these weeks, one of these spots, they can't win every game, but balls hitting the crossbar and all that nonsense. You know, obviously they beat the Chargers, ball hit the crossbar and bounced in.
Now, Brady lost a couple of it. People said that about the Patriots for years, just waiting for them to lose, waiting for them to get caught.
And they lost some
did.
home games.
They did.
Yeah, Tennessee beat them one year at home.
Absolutely.
The Jets beat them one year.
Jacksonville should have had them in 2017. Like, it happened.
lost some games.
What was the difference between their third Super Bowl and their fourth Super Bowl?
About 10 years.
Exactly.
So, we'll see. Good job joining us here. I appreciate
we
you.
love you, Colin. Knock him dead.
All right, good
Keep
stuff.
it going.
That was
Chalamet was great last night again.
on Saturday Night Live?
Yes, he was.
Okay.
My pal.
Christopher Russo on Sunday Huddle presented by Hard Rock Bet. We'll take a quick time out and do a little Blitz the Book quickly next to close out the program on ESPN 106.3.